Good evening, 12s, and welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast. My name is Candace Higgins,
Now I'm Tino Ganasius.
and we are back for another episode of Seahawks 360. Tino, we got a big game coming up. It's week 2, but
hmm
it seems like the Seahawks have put themselves in a hole off the bat already by losing their home opener to the 49ers. If they have any chances of, still wanting to stay competitive in a division where everybody else won their game, it's pretty imperative that the Seahawks come away with a win for this one. But I think it'll be a tough ask for sure. So what are your when you're looking at this preview and upcoming the game, what stands out in terms of what the Seahawks need to do in order to come out with a win?
Well, okay, a couple things off the bat. First one is if Spoon and Julian Love can't go, along with Eamon Warry's injury, I think that's huge, right?
Hmm.
Spoon did not participate in practice on Thursday, nor did Julian Love, which I think Love was a little bit of a surprise. Eamon Warry is out. We don't know if he's going on the IR. So that would be 3/5 of your essentially starting secondary, right? If you want to call it that, or maybe half with Eamon Warry as like a wild card that may not play against a Steelers passing attack that actually looked pretty good in week 1. That's the first worry is really it's Spoon. Love is an important piece, but it's Spoon to me.
Hmm.
The second one is, and the major thing for me in this game when looking at it is, are they going to come out and be a outside zone play action team, right? Are they going to establish the identity that we had talked about all offseason? Are they going to do what Clint Kubiak was brought in to do? Period. Going back and looking a little more at last week's game, week 1, 2 of their 26 dropbacks were play action. 2.
Yeah,
That's 1/13th, right? That's less than
crazy.
10% of their dropbacks were play action,
It's
which
crazy.
is not what we were told what was going to happen, right? No wonder they couldn't do anything. Play action opens up, and no wonder Cooper Kupp and all the rest besides JSN couldn't get separation because they were not brought in to be able to separate without play action, essentially. So there's that. They were 3 of 10 on third down. They need to improve that. And so for me, I want to see them run outside zone. I want to see them run play action off of that outside zone. And I'm very interested to see what the secondary looks like and how it holds up against a DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, and the rest of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense if those guys are indeed out.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's got to be about part of it. I think my key is controlling the clock, and I think they can control
hmm
the clock if they do your key right.
hmm
Like they're one and the same. If they can successfully, I think they successfully got a run game in, right? So it's not a question about was a run game in. It's just like they I believe had the second highest rate in terms of run rate on early downs. So they've got that part down, but they've got to be more successful at it. They've got to be able to run in the stack boxes, and that's what this scheme is supposed to be able to do. So it goes back again. Can they be what they advertise? Can they control the clock a little bit better and keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline? We don't know if he's Rodgers or not. He looked pretty good week 1. We know week 1 can be deceiving. How representative of that game is it? We'll see. I think game 2 will tell us a lot for sure in that regard. But either way, they've got to not only control the clock, but I think they've got to go with what's working. Stop me if you've heard this before. You may stop me, but stop me if you heard this before. But they've got to be able to stick with what works. Like they can't just go away from the things that prove out to be successful. Because I would say Zach Charbonnet had a overall more successful game in week 1
hmm
than what Kenneth Walker had, and yet for some reason they do this weird. I guess we've got to cater to K9, give him his touches or whatever, and then they completely go away from Charbonnet in a way that almost ices out. Like I really kind of iced them out for a while. I mean, that third quarter, I don't even remember seeing a Zach Charbonnet. They kind of pulled him in towards the
Right.
end in the fourth quarter when they really needed to get things going back. But you just sat the guy and you've not done a good job of balancing it out. So to me, I think that makes a really big difference in the game. Also, like your points, got to use more play action. got to get some more explosive plays. I think they could do a better job of getting the tight ends involved, getting the
Hmm.
fullbacks involved. Just be what you were in the preseason, man.
Right.
Whatever those plays were, they just call them exactly the same. I understand the result may not look as dominant as it did, obviously, in preseason, but I think the process and what they did in the preseason was very sound. That's what everyone praised. That's what
Right.
everyone enjoyed, seeing the involvement of the fullback, seeing them getting the tight ends out into the flats.
Right.
We didn't really see a lot of that at all. And I'm sure that's a combination of things between the play calling, between Sam Darnold locking in on JSN sometimes. And there were some clips I saw of film and going back, and there were some separation that like Torrey Horton was getting, or some other guys they got sometimes, but for one reason or another, the ball didn't go that way.
Right.
Um,
So
so
I got two other things that I think are worth pointing out. One is, so JSN was the target on 56.5% of the passes. Okay.
yeah, correct.
And if that's the case, and he was successful, if that was the case, you know what's going to happen next. They're going to double team JSN. They're going to roll safety over there. They're going to double team him with the nickel, whatever it might be. They're going to double team him from here on out
Right.
until others can prove they can get separation and be a threat. So the tight ends, the backside of the backfield, Horton, Cup, someone is going to have to step up and produce and beat one-on-one coverage or be able to beat zone to be able to allow this pass offense to work.
Hmm.
Teams are going to take away JSN. I would be as close to like triple teaming him as I needed to be to take him away, because right now he looks like the only threat. So
Right.
that to me is going to be very interesting. It won't surprise me to see Jalen Ramsey follow JSN,
Hmm.
which is, and Jalen Ramsey is physical as heck and is still playing at an all pro level or close to it. And so that's going to be a challenge
Yeah.
for the Seahawks and for JSN this week. The other one is you're facing what is arguably the best edge tandem in the NFL in Highsmith and Watt. Seriously, look at
On
Highsmith.
paper. On paper.
If you
They
look at
they did
if you
not
look at
show up
Highsmith
like
sack
that last
sack
week.
totals, okay, so top three, top five for sure, arguably the best.
On paper.
Now
But they've got, I mean, last week they did look bad. I don't expect them to look that bad, but they look
it's
rough.
it's still Watt and Highsmith. I'm sorry. Like this is my point is that we've got to see the tackles and whoever else is helping the tackles hold up against this pass rush, or else your running game is the pressure is on your running game to work to hold off that pressure. If the Seahawks get in third and long, this is not a good. If they can be on schedule, right, be in third and 4, third and 5, third and 3, then the Seahawks have a shot. Seahawks in third and long with JSN as the only real threat against his pass rush that's a recipe for disaster. I was laughing because I was reading. I was trying to read all the previews I could find for this game, and the Yahoo preview. The very first, they had three things on their list, and the very first thing on their preview list was attack Seahawks right tackle Abraham Lucas. And they said whether the Steelers manage to get TJ Watt one on one with Lucas or simply send all out blitzes at the right side of the Seahawks offensive line, Pittsburgh needs to take advantage of arguably the weakest link in Seattle's pass protection. And, you know, I believe that to be true. I 100% believe that to be true, for one. And for two, if he's going against Watt, that's going to be trouble. So to me, this entire, like the Seahawks offensive success in this game is predicated on being able to be positive on first down and being able to run the ball at least semi effectively throughout the game, because nothing else is going to work. Play action is not going to work. Third and long's not going to work. None of this works unless the Seahawks can run the ball. Now I think they can, right? I think that they will be able to run the ball against this team as long as they stick to the things that they know they can do well. We talked about it last pod. You drafted Gray Zabel in the first round. You're starting Jalen Sundell. These are two outside zone offensive linemen, and you're not running outside zone. Go
Right.
run outside zone. Whether you're
Yep.
successful or not, run it over and over and over again, because that is the only way play action is going to work. That is
Yep.
the only way you're going to stay out of third and long.
Right.
But
Yeah. I
I do
agree with a
think
lot of it. Of course, you would know that I would find a strong disagreement with the prospect that Abe Lucas is now the worst offensive lineman on this team when we've talked about for years how bad Anthony Bradford is. But okay, okay.
Well, they
I
said the
think
right
that is
side,
based
right? They said the
solely
right
on week.
side. Go ahead. Sorry.
If you're just basing things on week one, then yep, I mean, it's hard to argue with that if you're just going on week one because Bradford had a pretty solid game last week. But if you're going over any sort of context outside of a just week one matchup, then I think um, history would tell you that you know that's
Well,
that's not true. But we'll see.
it's not the left side, right? And Zabel looks good.
Dable does look good.
So you could argue that maybe Sundell, if you wanted to attack with a D tackle, but they're missing their first round pick inside.
Mhm.
I think it makes sense if you take Watt, who is I'd say a top five edge. Some people might argue the best, but a top five edge,
Yep.
and you pair him against Lucas, who we argued about whether he looked good or not last week, but they're saying right side of the line, and you put Bradford and Lucas together in pass protection.
Well,
That is where I would attack too, if I'm being
yeah.
honest. So I don't know. I don't. It's not that I don't think that Lucas will hold up as much as I found it funny that that was the first thing that was said. But also, it is going to be the matchup we're going to have to watch for sure.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's funny too. I think it's almost comically funny, but it is certainly interesting, and I do think they've got to do a good job of pass pro because you just can't open up a pass if you don't have protection. They did a pretty good job of that last week, with the exception of when it mattered the most.
Hmm.
But can they do that again but hold up in the end
Hmm.
would be the question. Another key matchup that I have from the looking at this on the defensive perspective, we know
Hmm.
there's a lot of injuries there in that secondary on the back end, but it seems like they might be getting an additional some additional help with Uchenna Nwosu looking like he is able to come back. Now, what Uchenna Nwosu are we going to get? I really have no idea. I have no idea how to measure that. I wasn't terribly impressed with the limited snaps that he got last year, but we all know he wasn't really truly healthy when we did see him. So
Right.
I would love for them to build off of what they did last week, which was have an extremely high pressure rate. They hit Brock Purdy 8 times last week. And Aaron Rodgers does struggle with interior pressure, and I believe your best pass rusher right now is Leonard Williams, and on the interior. So, can you capitalize on that? Can you get him off the spot? Because Aaron Rodgers ain't he's not a spring chicken. I mean, I know he did a pretty good job of doing enough quick game to make him still look mm, yeah, pretty good. I mean, he looked good in the week one. I still.
Right.
Uh, I'll need a few more games of that to truly buy that he's not washed because I do believe Aaron Rodgers is more washed than not.
Right.
But
Right.
if you get Rodgers off the spot, you get him off schedule. They seem to kind of thrive on that quick game. I mean, that was a lot of where they got their yards from
Right.
last week. And also, one thing that I noticed when I was sort of deep diving on this site is a lot of those drives that they had offensively, they got really good field advantage. So they had good spots
Yep.
to start from. It wasn't necessarily that they were having these long, 90-yard drives
Right.
downfield. They didn't have a lot of work to do from the beginning. So special teams will be key
Right.
in this game. Can you force them to go the length of the field? I think will be an interesting test. And if you do, can they survive solely off the quick game? Because unlike the Seahawks, who are probably actually 31st, I think, in a quick game last year. I mean, last week they really were bad with the quick game. The Steelers thrived, and they had a very strong quick game, and it was probably one of the number one reasons that they won that game.
Right. Well, the one thing Rogers can do now, like he really can't do anything else other than be elite at evaluating the defense pre-snap
Hmm.
and getting the ball out quickly. That's
Yep.
his game, right? He doesn't scramble anymore. He's not mobile anymore. His deep ball isn't, he doesn't have the same arm that he used to have,
Hmm.
but he can evaluate just like Tom Brady. As Tom Brady got older, they get smarter and smarter and smarter. So
Right.
his ability to suss out like where to go with the ball and to understand pre-snap is elite. He processes the game really really well. So yeah, I think it's going to be about the quick game, which is unfortunate if Spoon can't go because one of the things you can do against the quick game is to play press,
Mhm.
right? And is to try to jam receivers and mess that timing up, that sort of thing. Be able to tackle them behind the line of scrimmage on screens. And that's something Spoon does really, really well with his physicality.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I don't know. I think you're right about the quick game. I also will say that I don't expect the Steelers to be able to run the ball at all. I think the Seahawks showed against McCaffrey, who is again arguably a top three, top five running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
That includes running the ball, not just catching passes out of the backfield.
Right.
They really did bottle him up. McCaffrey was not the reason why the Seahawks lost. They did a really good job of tackling him after he caught the ball and
Mhm.
also keeping him away from, stopping him before some of the big runs. And now you're going against, Jalen Warren and Gainwell, who's a cast off from the Eagles, and Caleb Johnson, who's a rookie from Iowa. They should be able to stop those running backs. This offensive line has a lot of pedigree, but it's
Yeah.
not great yet. It hasn't gelled. And so in my mind, if you can stop Rodgers, if you can, you're not going to confuse Rodgers, but if you can essentially keep everyone in front of you and tackle once they get the ball. Seahawks' ability to tackle is going to be huge in this game
Mhm.
because the quick game is predicated on, missed tackles, right?
Yeah.
Shaking people,
Right.
being able to beat your first man, that sort of thing. So keep them in front of you, make the tackle. If they can do those things, I think the Seahawks defense will be very, very successful.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do not expect the Steelers to be able to run the ball at all against the Seahawks.
Yeah. If I'm at McDonald, I'm leaning more into fundamentals than
Hmm.
disguises. Aaron Rodgers has seen it all. I don't know if there's too much you're going to throw at him that's really just going to shake him. Can you just be sound? I think to your point is really what the emphasis needs to be this week. To your point also about the run defense, the Seahawks last week ranked fifth overall in
Hmm.
the NFL in run defense success rate. The Steelers, however, ranked 24th. So they were really weak up the middle.
Right.
And so this might be an opportunity for whether it's Zach Charbonnet, if Kenneth Walker can get it going, whoever it is, I don't care. But I really think they need to attack that on the opposite side of the ball. If they can hold up against the Steelers run game and then the Seahawks can get their run game going,
Right.
that gives them, I would say, 90% of the way to get this done. Because I think I mean, I'm not going to say this very often, but if you take Aaron Rodgers at the stage he is in his career right now versus Sam Darnold, I think I might actually take Sam Darnold. There are not going to be many quarterback matchups I can say that with. I
I'll
think I can
take
say
I'll take neither.
that
I'll take whatever the other option is. Give me Jalen Milrow. I'll take whatever anybody else. Not Mason Rudolph. Not Mason Rudolph, but anybody
one.
else.
I
It's
take it. I take there are not going to be many things that many quarterback matchups that we can genuinely say like we take Sam Darnold. I think this for me is one of them. So I think if they can run the game, if they run the ball, stop the run.
one of the issues though is so it looks like either Shaq Griffin or Darian Kendrick would be the starting corner if and likely Joe would move inside if Spoon can't go, and
I
that
think you
Ty
see me
Okada, yeah, that's what I saw, and that Ty Okada would likely start for Julian Love if Love can't go. To me, that's whether you move Job inside or move Job outside. The fact of the matter is, your third starter is likely one of Shaq. Now, Kendrick has shown flashes that he can play. Griffin makes me nervous. And to have like I know you like Okada. I like Okada as a special teamer.
I
But
don't
I
like.
think if Okada is out there for 80% of the snaps, Rogers is gonna find him, right?
I don't like
If
Okada. The
if
team likes Okada.
okay, sorry.
The
If
team likes Okada.
now if I'm the Steelers offensive coordinator, like I'm sending Metcalf deep and I'm seeing if Okada can cover. I'm
Yeah,
seeing if Okada can get to Metcalf by the time the ball gets there. I'm sorry. Like those things make me very, very, very nervous if that's part of our secondary. So defensively, like I said, I think we'll be able to defend against the run. If so, Jaron Reed also didn't practice on Thursday because of a back issue, and they
yeah.
said Mike Morris would likely be the starter if he can't. And I think that's a downgrade both in rushing the passer and defending the run.
Yeah.
But I still think that they would hold up against the run. I trust this stout Seahawks front seven to be able to stand up against a Pittsburgh Steelers running game. To me, the question is again, if the secondary is out, can they cover and can they tackle? Um, it's I don't know. This is gonna to me, this is gonna be an ugly game. I think to your point, both quarterbacks are not impressive at this point. Um, I think that the Seahawks running game is to me is the one place where they can really have an advantage and
Mhm.
be able to win this game if they are going to win. Uh, I did read that this is more it's a little tangential, but I did read that when they talked to Darnold about what helped him become a better quarterback or become successful eventually after having kind of flamed out in other places, he said, he credited his year in San Francisco. And we know that,
Yeah.
playing behind Purdy.
Right.
But the quote really stood out to me and I guess upset me. He said, when I started to change my thought process as a quarterback just to getting the ball in my guy's hands, that's kind of where it unlocked for me a little bit. So his point was playing with Purdy or watching Purdy be able to distribute the ball to Ayuk and Samuel and McCaffrey, right? And Jennings to a certain extent. He was more playing point guard, right? He's trying to get the ball in his guys' hands to make plays. Now, when he's in Minnesota with Jefferson and Addison and Jones and Hawkinson, he's doing that. He's doing what Purdy did for the Niners, right? Distributing the ball like a point guard. And he was very successful in doing it. And he admittedly said, as I just read, this is what unlocked it for me. But we being, the Seahawks or John Schneider, did not surround him with the players. It's like playing point guard in basketball without the other four guys being a threat. Doesn't matter if you make good passes if they can't play. And I think that's where we're at with Darnold. That's what we saw in the first game, and I think that's what we'll see moving forward. Is you can't be a distributor if you're throwing the Cup and Cup can't get separation, right? You can't be a distributor if even with JSN for that matter. I think it's telling that he would say that that's how he found success, but then almost 57% of his targets went to one guy. He's either just trusting one guy or just thinks one guy is good. So I don't know. I that made me really nervous that was what he had said, and I don't know. I don't expect big things from him. I really think this whole offense is predicated on being able to run the ball. And if we are going to be able to pass, it's going to be built off of the running game.
Well, so I hear that quote, but I don't have the same takeaway that you do necessarily, because that's what these all of these systems have in common. It's literally what they all do. Now there is a significant difference in weapons for sure. I mean, it's not something you can argue. That's literally what we've talked about, how
Well,
it's a version that he's familiar with, because it's, I mean, what,
but then
Shanahan is an offshoot of O'Connell, and O'Connell's an offshoot. I mean, they all just have these offshoots of these same
right,
principles.
but
And
you can't expect to win if you're going to. Okay, so if I grant you that the systems are the same and they are based on distributing the ball, you can't run that system with this pool of talent. The talent on the offense, the weapons on this offense do not allow you to run a system like that effectively. These are the kind of players where you have to scheme for them to be successful because they don't have the athletic talent to be able to do what the offense is asking you to do. That's the miss for me. That's the disconnect. It's good to distribute and have this type of offense if you've got players all around you that are threatening. But if you're not demanding a double team anywhere except for JSN, this offense doesn't work. So you're trying to install an offense that doesn't work with the talent that you have.
well, it's not made to be predicated off the wide receivers. It really is supposed to be more of a tight end game. So that's
That's not what
you're
Minnesota did. That's not what the Niners
went
did.
and got PJ Hawkinson. Yes, they
But
did. That is what they did.
no, because Jefferson is arguably the best receiver in football,
He
and
is, but
Addison was an outstanding number two. And in
correct.
San Francisco, Kittle is a top tight end, yes, but the offense is not built around Kittle. The offense is the passing offense is built around CMC and wide receivers.
I would say that's one of the main differentiating factors between the three systems is use of personnel. But either way,
You
however they're
still have to
using
have a
their
threat
personnel,
somewhere, though.
Kevin O'Connell's system is based obviously around Justin Jefferson way more than the others because he's got Justin Jefferson. So,
Right?
duh,
But
right?
but we don't have anything. Is my point.
I
My point is we don't have anything.
I disagree. I think I do believe in Torrey Horton. I do. Now, do I believe he's going to be ankle breaker? No. Is there
I,
obviously a missing here, a missing link in terms of you miss having someone like a DK Metcalf? Yes, I think that's obvious. The
if
personnel wasn't there to replace him this year. It's just
if we're
wasn't.
hoping, if we okay, so I like Horton too. I'm hopeful. But if we're going into the season and our argument for having weapons on this team is a fifth round rookie wide receiver, we're not set up for success, right?
I don't think we
But
ever. I mean, I think that was always our situation, though. I don't see anything different. I don't see. I guess I'm saying this. Week one didn't necessarily change the perspective of what I saw the weapons to be. The
it,
weapons were the weapons. So
it didn't
it
it
was a
didn't
point
change
just as relevant in the preseason. I mean,
didn't change mine either. I still said they were crap in the beginning, and I'll say it now, right? I still think this is a 6, 7, maybe 8 win team. I just I think that the lack of we talked about it before, the lack of a deep threat, the lack of Cup's ability to separate, and Darnold's kind of lack of ability makes for an offense that's just not good enough. And then again, when I hear this quote and I think about, the offense that he has and the weapons that he doesn't have, I don't expect him to succeed at all. The only way Darnold, as I said before, the only way Darnold is successful is if he has weapons around him.
no, I do think you need a supporting cast. My hope is that this scheme or knows how to get its guys open. I think it can get. We saw in the preseason its ability to get guys open in the flat. We saw tight ends and fullbacks catching balls. Right? If you can do that, then I think you're fine. Now they need to be able to do that. That's the question. Can they do that? Can they get easy throws out using misdirection and things like that? Like, can they scheme that up? I think a lot hinges on that. In fact, I think the bet that the front office took, given what they had to work with in the the market anyway, was that the system will be able to scheme guys up. I think that's the bet they all made internally. I would agree with them that there weren't a ton of better options out there. So
So why
what do
sign
you do?
Darnold in the first place? And I asked this question the minute they signed him, and I'll continue to ask it. Why sign if you so how many wins do you think they're gonna have now? What's
Would
your
you want? They wanted Aaron Rodgers if they didn't get Sam Darnold. I again would say, give me
Hey,
Sam Darnold.
I'm
Okay.
glad we got Darnold then because I would not root for a team with Aaron Rodgers.
That
That's
it's
not
already come out with reports is that they were
okay.
going to get
Either
Aaron
one, but
Rodgers.
neither one of those two is leading you to the promised land. So again, why would you sign Sam Darnold and have Sam Darnold play if you're not going anywhere with them?
Frankly, I don't think that they. I think with the defense that they have, and I also would agree, if you're Mike McDonald and if you're John Snyder, you can't afford to just be tanking seasons. It's easy to say as a fan. It is when it's not your job and your livelihood on the line. It's cool to say, let's just be bad, right? But when it's your job, you can't afford to make those calls.
I think
You
you
just
could
can't.
be. Is it better to be bad and fun and exciting, or mediocre and boring?
Well, if you're the people making decisions, it's neither. It's would you rather have a job or not?
No,
I
but
do
I'm
think
saying if
that's the
you're bad,
reality.
I'm saying if you make the argument that we're building something and we're going to be bad this year, but we're going to be fun, right? We're going to run some silly plays. We're going to have an outstanding defense, which fans love. We're going to try to install our offense. We understand that the team's not going to be that good, but you need to bear with us because we are going to have a high pick. We are going to take a quarterback with that pick. We're also going to try to sign some sort of bridge quarterback to get us through next year if we don't start that rookie. But we have a plan in place. It's just not going to be this year. But we will do everything in our power to put butts in the seats and make this team exciting with play calls, with some of the young players that we play moving forward, as opposed to being stuck in mediocrity for the next 3 years because Sam Darnold is crap. Like,
I would argue that Sam Darnold is about as close to a bridge quarterback with slight upside as you can get.
okay, but a boring bridge quarterback that doesn't bring anything to the table.
I
He's
mean,
so bad.
you can't
He
make jobs off. You can't make job decisions off of what's boring and what's exciting.
you
Like
can you can in
like
that you can
I don't
if
think
you
you can be bad and be fun.
If you
Personally,
yes, I think you can. I think
I
you can. I
I
think based on
don't like
personnel
doing
and
it.
style of football, you absolutely can.
I
There
don't like
are
doing
it's why we talk about NBA League Pass teams every year, right? We all, Bill Simmons started it. We all talk about it. Everybody has their NBA League Pass team that's not very good, right? A lot of people, Sacramento Kings for a long time, a team that is not very good but exciting to watch that you enjoy watching, and so you adopt them as your team to watch, right?
that's
They're not a
basketball.
contender. It does, but it's still sports, right? If you have a defense that can run around and be crazy, and you got an offense that's running reverses or doing like coming out like the run and shoot offenses in the 80s, something interesting and different, or you start a quarterback like Jalen Milroe and you run him 15 times a game, and you're running an offense that looks very different than the rest of the NFL offense, that can be fun too. What I'm saying is to run out a washed up, third version of a quarterback who can't do anything without a ton of help, and his numbers say so, and a team with an offense that's really, really, really boring, that's not exciting for anyone. This team is not going to the playoffs. This team is not winning 10 games. And so we're gonna have the 12th, 14th pick in the draft when we could be trying something interesting and different and be in the running for a top 3 quarterback in a loaded quarterback draft. I just it doesn't make sense to me. And I know it's one game and I'm completely overreacting, but this game made me mad. The more I looked at it, the more I understood the numbers, the more I thought about it. This like what are we doing?
Well, yeah, you're never gonna hear from me to axe a tank. That's just philosophically we just differ there. Like I can't do it. Like I don't have it in me. I don't agree with it. Fundamentally, it, to me, is a slap in the face of the integrity of the game. I just can't get with it, especially planning to
You're
be
not
that
trying
way.
to lose. You're playing young players.
I get the whole mediocrity argument. I do. I really do. I just think with the defense that they have, with the pieces they've already put in place before they have to start paying some of these guys, I think that's a really bad time to decide now you're going to go in the opposite direction. After the
If
momentum that you built from the Russ trade, right? There was a lot of momentum. You got young players, you got key pieces, you got all these things. And then to in the middle of that completely pivot and go in
if
the
Darn
opposite direction, I can't
if
with
Geno
that.
Smith was your quarterback, yes. If Sam Darnold is your quarterback, absolutely under no circumstances do you do that. That's the difference between those two guys. Because with Geno Smith, you would make the playoffs. With Geno Smith, you would have a hope of Geno Smith going on a heater and this team making it to the NFC Championship with this type of defense, right? The way Geno processes defenses, his accuracy, if he goes on a heater, we know he's a 4,000, 4,500 yard quarterback who's great, who
Yeah,
can be great. Okay?
I
Can
agree.
be. Not consistently, but can be.
I agree.
So there's the potential to actually win something with him. You go from him to Darnold with this offense, you're not going anywhere. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you. The time to capitalize was when Spoon is coming into his prime, pre-extension. You can spend money elsewhere, right? All the other pieces that they have, you could make the argument that Hall and Mafe are playing well. You've got Williams who is playing like he's in his prime, right? You've got Murphy's going to start ascending or is ascending right now. Ernest Jones is in his prime. I agree. I agree. But that quarterback was Geno Smith. But when you don't have the quarterback to make that happen, you might have to pivot. You might have to change where you're going. Maybe they lied to themselves and said that Darnold was the quarterback for them and Darnold could get them there. I've seen enough to tell you that's not him. It's not him.
We'll see. We'll see.
No, we know. We're not. We'll see. We know.
No, we don't know because he was in the
Uh,
playoffs last year, no matter
with
how bad he
with
was.
Justin Jefferson, he had a top 5 offensive line, a top 5 tight end.
We did not have a
A
top five offensive line
He
by the
did.
time in the end of that season. They had a ton of injuries. In fact, they are still struggling with the offensive line.
You know why
Why
they're
do they have
struggling?
real
They're
fries
struggling
instead of
because
us?
Darisaw is hurt. They're struggling because Darisaw is hurt. That's why they're
They had a
struggling.
lot of key injuries.
Darisaw is an all-world left tackle. That's why they're struggling. Darisaw might be the best left tackle in football, or close.
Yeah, I
He had a
understand,
top
but
he
he
had a
didn't
top
have
five
them for the last 7 games.
top 5 tight end, top 2 wide receiver, a an elite number 2 receiver in Addison, a coach that knows what he's doing, offensively speaking, a great play caller. Like he had
He
all
had a
these things in
ton. No
place.
one's arguing that the Vikings are not a Super Bowl caliber team. The Seahawks are not a Super Bowl caliber team. But I also don't think the answer is throwing out, you know, uh, basically making Jalen Milroe Anthony Richardson in the sense of taking a guy who is obviously super raw and needs a ton of development and throwing him out there and making him start and wasting him and his opportunity as well. I don't think that's your answer either.
I'm not
I
even saying
think they were
wasting.
put in a
Go with Drew
situation
Lock.
I think they were put in a situation of bad on bad. I think they did not expect Gino to walk. I don't think they expected DK also. I think they were hoping that after a year, they'd be able to, get him to stay, they'd be able to work something out. Their plan, it's pretty obvious, was Gino and DK. They had to pivot unexpectedly. I think given what a large pivot that is, they've done what they can. And so I defend the decision because I don't see the definitive you should have done this path that doesn't involve tanking. If you think tanking is the way, then obviously that's going to be the path you argue. I don't believe in tanking. And if you don't believe in tanking, then this is probably one of the better options that you had available to you. Given you had to
To be
pivot midstream,
mediocre, to be mediocre and lessen the pick that you have. Like, no. We do disagree fundamentally. By the way, Brian O'Neill, their right tackle, has been to the Pro Bowl twice. So you have a two-time Pro Bowler on the right side. You
but he
have
wasn't
Darisaw,
healthy.
who is the best young left tackle in football,
That
on the
they
left
had a
side.
ton of injuries that year.
Okay,
They had
but they still played
all
well.
across that line. They were
But they
rotating
still played
guys.
well. But they still played well. He
They
wasn't
played
under.
well, which is the point.
He wasn't
We're
under. He
talking about
wasn't under.
Sam Darnold because he had all of the weapons in front of him. He had this great online. He actually did better under pressure last year than Gino did. So if you're the
Okay, by
Seahawks,
who?
you've got
By
to make
whose
a
measurement
call.
though? Like Gino, but also Gino's performance was. We know intimately why Gino didn't play well last year. And for my money, I don't blame. The blame is on everyone on that offense as to why Gino didn't play well last year. We
Yeah,
spent hours talking about DK not running correct routes or rounding off his routes, and that's why there was plenty of interceptions. And I think Gino tried to play hero ball, and he tried to make throws he wasn't capable of, and he tried to hold on the ball for too long and would get sacked and all sorts of things. I don't think Gino was right. I don't think mentally or physically he was right last year. So that
yeah,
is what it is.
yeah.
I guess all I'm saying is Sam Darnold's not taking us anywhere. And so why are we playing him and why are we doing this? Because we're
Because they're
just
not because the alternative is tank, and they're not going to do that. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, they don't want to tank the season. Mike McDonald is too much of a competitor to want to tank the season.
now I wouldn't
John
say look,
Schneider is too
I'm as
much of a
competitive
competitor.
as anybody is. You can ask anyone who knows me. But part of it is I don't even care about making the NFC championship game. I want to win a Super Bowl. The quickest way to win a Super Bowl is not to play Sam Darnold this year. That's not doing you any good. It's not helping the team progress.
I also don't think
It's a
that
talent.
pick where it's going to change anything. I don't think
They
there's a
wrote
scenario where Sam Donald, unless he gets injured, doesn't take the bulk of the snaps as a starter because they want him there.
they
And
wrote
because he's got the chemistry with all of the wide receivers and because they can run a competent NFL offense with him.
can they?
I believe they can run that. That's what you're betting on,
They
right?
sure as heck
Running
did
a
last week. They
competent.
sure
They
as
could
heck
be
did last
wrong.
week.
They could be wrong. But their bet is they'll be able to run with the scheme of the floor, with the coaching up of the offensive lineman. They'll be able to improve the offensive line enough, which is the biggest problem last year, to be competent enough on offense and to let your defense carry you. That's pretty much the bet that they're making. I think in the process, I would do the same thing in terms of process, which is what I'm evaluating right now. I think it was as sound as it could be given the unexpected circumstances. Now, ultimately, do those bets, do they lose the bets? Yeah, that's possible that they lose those bets, but I ultimately think the process was as good as you can get when you argue, you know,
No,
all the wide receivers about. There are really only a couple things you can tic tac and say they could have did differently. There just weren't a plethora of options available at the wide
Sam,
receiver position this
Sam
offseason.
Darnold, Sam
Just
Darnold and
wasn't.
Cooper Cup were bad process to me. You threw money away at players that weren't taking you anywhere for one. So Mike Vorel, who is a writer for the Seattle Times, wrote an article. that came out to, I think last night or today, that basically says that the Seahawks have a talent problem. He said the Seahawks don't have enough elite talent. And he talked mostly about Darnold. He talked about Cup. He stated the fact that the Seahawks have had one first team All Pro in the last 5 seasons. That was Bobby Wagner in 2020. I would argue that, on defense, the Seahawks do have
Mhm.
first team All Pro talent. I think Leonard Williams is there.
Yeah, that
I
was a
think that, I think that
control.
Ernest Jones is potentially there. I think that Spoon is there. Offensively, Gray Zabel be the one player where I think maybe he has the upside to be able to accomplish that as of right now. But
Yeah,
that's an issue. I think
it
that
is.
the offense has a talent issue, and you don't win Super Bowls in the NFL without elite talent on both sides of the ball, specifically at quarterback.
I would agree.
And so, again, like the whole point in if you have to have an elite quarterback to win, then your entire focus should be how do we get to the place where we can acquire an elite quarterback? This is my point. And so if you have to have, go ahead.
Do you consider Jalen Hurts elite?
Yep, I do. I think he's
I think
criminally.
he
I
is
think
too.
Jalen Hurts is a. I think Jalen Hurts is criminally underrated. I think his ability to run the ball and his ability to make good decisions as to when to run the ball is criminally underrated. I don't think
He is
he
not
is. I
elite.
think he's
He is.
a top eight quarterback in the league. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's
can't
top
get.
25%. It's because people's the way that we conceptualize an elite quarterback is narrow. Jalen Hurts he's not exciting, right? He outruns people, but he doesn't look like he's outrunning them. He avoids contact to try to save his body, right? Everyone credits the tush push as being a way for him to accumulate stats, but the reality is the tush push doesn't work for everybody because not everybody can squat 1,000,000 pounds like he can. That's the secret sauce of the tush push is how strong he is in his lower half. He's accurate. He doesn't put the ball in harm's way. And I would argue that AJ Brown and Saquon Barkley, yes, both of those guys are elite. But Devontae Smith isn't elite. Dallas Goedert is not elite, right? He doesn't have a ton of elite weapons around him. He has a very good offensive line. But the other part is they have the reason why. Okay, so say you don't think he's an elite quarterback. Howie
Yeah,
Roseman is the best GM in football.
yeah.
And the way that they've gone about building an offensive line is so incredible and so different than other teams, right? Mailata, they found that's such a developmental dude. And Mailata, some people think is the best tackle in football, right? They took Mekhi Becton, who was a cast-off, former number 4 pick of the Jets, and made him a guard and made him into an All-Pro, right? Their coaching on the offensive line is different. So to take that as the example and say you don't have to have an elite quarterback if you don't think Jalen Hurts is elite, of which I think he is means that every other position on your offense has to be perfect.
Yeah, it does. They're
John
not there yet.
Schneider and Mike McDonald aren't going to do that. They're not going to be perfect with everything else. So, but the other side is if you can find an elite quarterback, you don't have to be perfect everywhere. You don't have to have the greatest offensive line. You don't have to have, if your quarterback is like a number 1 quarterback, you don't even have to have good receivers to win a Super Bowl, right? You just have to be serviceable because your quarterback can make them better. Your quarterback can throw them open. That was the whole argument with Brady and with Mahomes. Is you don't have to invest a ton in their weapons because they are that good. What I'm saying is if the best chance to win a Super Bowl 9 out of 10 times, even if you don't think Hurts is elite, if 8 out of the last 10 Super Bowl winners have had elite quarterbacks, the best way to win a Super Bowl, the easiest path to win a Super Bowl is to continue to try to work towards finding an elite quarterback. And what I'm saying is if Darnold is going to win 8 games and miss the playoffs and we're going to pick number 14, but if you didn't do that and you tanked and you have like the number 3 pick. Yeah, basically
Steve
you did.
No. So Steve-O, Tino and I have had we've had some fundamental disagreements about how to build a team. This is just pretty much par for the course in terms
Yes.
of how we build a team. I don't believe in tanking. I don't believe in putting out talent that you know is not ready for the NFL. I just fundamentally don't believe in that. Tino is willing to take a step back for the possibility of a step up. I'm more
I'm
so
saying you
focused
can't win
on
without an elite
how
quarterback. That's what I'm
my
saying.
my thought is more so on.
Hey, over Darnold, Steve-O, over Darnold, yes, I do want Sanders over Darnold. Yes,
Yeah. So
yes, more
so I
fun, more
look,
fun, more exciting. Probably would lose. That's okay. Yes, 100%. Give me Sanders. I would rather have Milrow over both of them. Start.
I think for me, I look at I look at how hard it is to get that elite quarterback. I think if you're right, if you're on paper, if you could, if you would, if you said, "Hey, Candace, you could take a step back for a year to get an elite quarterback," I'd say yes. I don't believe that you get an elite quarterback on the first try. I think you then wait 3 years, 2, 3 years. You waste those 2, 3 years, and I think you got to try again, probably at least one other time, and then you might have to try again. And so now, what's supposed to be a year step back, I think can become purgatory in terms of just being a bad team really fast, and you lose a lot of talent that way as well. So to me, I just look at the I look at the statistical likelihood of you finding that elite quarterback. We see the same teams at the top of the draft every year for a reason, right? And so that's what gives me the pause into buying into that strategy of the being willing to tank, because there is no guarantee at all. I mean, even the most sure guys, who Caleb Williams was as sure
No,
as they
okay.
came when
You,
you're
you- hey,
Trevor
but
Lawrence.
look at Daniels though. Look at McCarthy last week. Look at what Jaden Daniels has done. These guys,
I think
Jaden Daniels was
if
elite
you
year
believe
one. Daniels was elite year one.
he was elite year one, and there were only a couple people that argued that Jalen Daniels was better. But I just think year after year, it's just not that simple.
It's not, but you know what is simple? You know what is a guarantee? That Donald ain't winning nothing. That's a guarantee. So give me the 1% shot that we pick an elite. We maybe dice roll top three, top five quarterback, and we pick them, and we might have a chance at an elite quarterback, and we might have a chance to go far over the guarantee that we won't in Sam Darnold. That's
So
a
Steve
promise.
thinks
That
it's the
is,
head coach.
I would bet my entire, yeah, I saw that. I don't think
I think
so.
it's
I
him.
just went and looked at the last Super Bowl winners, and it was littered with Hurts, Mahomes, Brady, all those dudes, right? Those were the dudes that won the Super Bowl. Stafford, who was elite when he was with the Rams in the beginning, like those were now where they had to be coupled. Steve O, to your point, you have to be coupled with a head coach. If you have an elite quarterback, but a trash head coach, you're not going anywhere. But
Yeah.
we're talking about McVay. We're talking about Andy Reid. We're talking about the Eagles organization, right? So all those things have to be in place in order to win. But what I'm saying is you're not winning without the elite quarterback. And
I
Sam
also
Darnold playing is not going is the slowest path, the worst path to having seen the Seahawks with an elite quarterback.
I would also argue that the Seahawks don't see themselves as a Super Bowl contender. So their thought process is not trying to get over the hump to the Super Bowl. They're trying to make the playoffs. That's where they are. That's
What does
their
that do for
reality.
you? What does it
They
do
are a
for you if you're
frisky
not going to win a
team.
Super Bowl?
They are a frisky
Speaking
team who's not been able to get over the hump, and whose owners care a lot about getting into the
but,
playoffs, which affects
but
how you
speaking of
make
like
decisions.
speaking of being a competitor, who cares if you make the playoffs if you can't win a Super Bowl? What does it matter?
Well, I think you start somewhere. I think most people would buy into the fact that you got to have momentum.
No, not at all. Mike Tomlin came in and won a Super Bowl year one. What momentum did
But
he
we're
have?
talking. I mean, okay, yeah.
What momentum did he
There
have
are there
though?
examples in NFL history, yes, but again, we're talking statistical probabilities, right? That's what we're talking about.
I just think you're
Yeah, I
not
mean,
winning.
there's going to be an example for every exception,
You're
sure.
not winning without an elite quarterback. That's all I'm saying. You're just not.
But I don't
And
think they see Sam Darnold as an elite quarterback. I don't think they got Sam Darnold and only paid him $35 million and it with an option to get out of it year one
I'll take
because they think he's elite.
$35 million. I'll take $35 million right now.
I'm sure you would, but I just don't think that they uh yeah, home game revenue, the home game revenue, exactly. Like the
No,
owners,
yes,
yeah,
that's important
the
to the
guys
owners,
making
100%.
decisions. So because I understand their process and how they're doing things, I agree with what I mean, they're making the best out of what they've been given. They miss DK Metcalf. I would argue, despite the fact that many Seahawks fans have tried to get rid of Geno for years, that they're going to miss Geno. Point blank, period. I've
Yes,
always been Team Geno. I think they're going to miss Geno.
we do. We already do.
Right. I don't think the Seahawks put all their eggs in the Sam Darnold basket. They went ahead and drafted somebody else. They've got somebody they're eyeing, and they're going to develop. They've only signed Sam Darnold for 1 year. So again, I go to the process. The results be what they may. I do still believe that the upside of the process could happen. I believe that the best case scenario could happen. But I also, if it's the worst case scenario, I'm not going to kill them for figuring out how to pivot on the fly when your quarterback basically
Sure.
figures out.
Bailed.
He
He bailed.
quietly
Well,
asked
and
for a trade.
so I agree with you with most of what you said, but I guess my thing is this is directed towards the team. Don't lie to me about what you think this team is. Don't give me a load of garbage about what you think Sam Darnold is. If this is indeed a transitional year, if this is indeed a team that's not gonna, isn't gonna really compete, then tell me the truth, right? But I think they're trying to sell us on this team being good.
Well, kind of question: what do you think they sold you on in regards to Sam Darnold that you don't like?
This
When you
being a
say they
playoff,
sold him, like what?
this being a playoff team,
Well, I think they believe that.
then I think they're wrong, and I think they don't know how to evaluate talent as well as I thought they did.
I
It's
think
not a
they
playoff.
did that.
It's not a playoff team.
I mean, their logic is he won 10 games last year. Yes, we tried to sub in for the. I think if you ask the guys in that building, they'd say they downgraded their quarterback. I'd also say that they think they downgraded in wide receiver. I think that they think that the scheme is going to be good enough, and that the defense is going to ultimately get them through. I
What?
think
Okay,
that's a sound process, even if
let
they're
me
wrong.
ask though. What scheme? If we don't know what the scheme is, I'll take Sam over Mac too this week. By the way,
Yeah, agreed. I mean,
fantasy and otherwise. But the problem is Mac is a backup. Sam's supposed to be a starter. Um,
well, Mac was a starter for a while too, but
there's a reason why he's a backup now, the way Sam should be. Um,
I don't think so. I think Sam's better than what you're giving him credit for, but I also don't think he's anything to write home about. I think he's mediocre. I think he's fine. I think he's average. I think he's fine.
that's
I
a
think he's
downgrade
gonna
from what you
frustrate you
said before,
sometimes.
though. That's a downgrade from what you thought he was when we brought him in.
I don't think they did. I don't think they thought that. I don't think they thought Sam Darnold was some world changer. You don't talk about running the ball as much as they talked about running the ball and then think that your quarterback is a game changer. Like, do you know how often they emphasize running the ball this offseason? That's saying that your quarterback
Not,
is average.
not necessarily. I think you can philosophically be a running. Look at Jim Harbaugh, right? You can be a running coach, right? A coach who wants to run the ball, who wants to establish the line of scrimmage, and still have an elite or near elite quarterback, and have him just be really, really, really good when you decide to throw the ball or when you have to throw the ball. I think that's where they want to get to. Also, I think the quarterback can play a huge role in the ability to run the ball. Baltimore, case in point, right? You can,
Yeah.
if you have a quarterback who's a threat, that changes the entire calculus of the offense and how a defense has to defend. I
Would
just
you
think I think that there's just there's
would you
no window to success with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, and that's what's depressing to me.
success to them is playoffs at best. I think that's how they see
Right.
it.
And
And
like
I
I said,
also think they
there is no window to success
I
with Sam
also
Darnold
think
as your
they see
quarterback.
him as a bridge. To them, he is the bridge. He's the bridge between Jalen Miro. Now we'll see if that's a good bet or not. But he's the bridge to Jalen Miro. That's how they see this whole situation. Their goal is to make progress while they hope that Jalen Miro develops to be that elite quarterback. To me, I think that's a sound process. I'm not going to knock it. Are they going to have the same offensive output? Absolutely not. They'd be lucky to be average. I'd be fine with them being average. I believe they have the ability to be the average, but it would take good coaching. And we'll see if they got good enough
They get
coaching to offset that. I think a good coach could make do with what they have. I think a Kyle Shanahan could make do with what they had. I think a Sean McVay could make do with what they have on offense. The question is, do you have something close? I mean, obviously they don't have Sean McVay, but do you have something close enough to be able to make what they have work?
if
It's gonna come down to coaching for me.
if yes, if they can establish, if you run Charbonnet 18 times and you run outside zone over and over again, and you can make that thing successful, right? If Zabel plays to the level of an all pro
I think
And
even Pro Bowl would be fine.
okay, yeah, something like that, whatever it is.
I think he could do it. I mean,
But to me, the key is establishing the
above
running game
average.
with The key is establishing the run game with Charbonnet. That's the key.
I would agree.
No, nothing else works in this offense and with this scheme unless you can establish the outside zone with Zach Charbonnet. And I'm intentionally saying Charbonnet and not K9 because I believe that's the most successful version of it.
Yeah, I would
Everything
agree.
else can be built off of that. But the fact that we didn't run that is crazy to me. D would have cost us the
Yeah,
game if it wasn't for Bosa.
but
Yeah,
you guys really lost because of Woolen.
yeah.
Hey, Steve-O, I think that's fair to say. I really do in terms of, those big plays coming down. But I try to look at it from a big picture perspective. And the offense had plenty of before those, you know, I think you could also argue that Woolen shouldn't have been on the field sometimes because the offense just should have kept going. So if you're gonna look at what lost this game, it's a totality, in my opinion, of yes, absolutely. Rick Woolen
30,
lost in this game twice. And he
37. He
lost
was also on
the
the field for
game,
37 minutes.
but you still had an opportunity. Yeah, you still had, even despite Rick Woolen, I can't put the whole game on him because the offense still had a chance in the end, and they still couldn't make it happen. So
I'll put it on Abe
that's why
Lucas.
we spend so much time on that offense, is because the offense did have a chance. It wasn't impossible for them to be able to make something happen on that drive and still pull it out, despite the knuckleheadedness of one Rick Woolen.
Right.
But
This
to me,
game will be to speak to Woolen, Steve-O. This game will be, I think, it might be the most important game of Rick Woolen's career. In that, if Spoon is out, he's going to be tasked with covering Metcalf quite a bit because of his length and speed and his ability to be physical. That's the matchup that makes sense, right? Otherwise, it's Job or Shaq Griffin or Kendrick on him. Now, Kendrick's a bigger corner too, and that would make some sense, but you don't want a dude that's essentially your fourth corner matching up against DK all the time. So to me, if Reek is going to ever step up and is ever going to play at the level he did as a rookie and be hungry in the way that he was as a rookie, it's going to be this week. Because
to
with no
that point,
Spoon potentially and no Love, meaning your help over the top is not going to be the same, it's time to show out, right? It's time to show up and show out.
to
And
that point, to just add to
yeah,
your point really quick, you have to. It's his time to do so, and it's his time to do so against competition you should be more familiar with than anybody else, and that's DK Metcalf.
yep,
If there's a guy who you've got to be able to know their tendencies, who you got to be able to know well enough to not make the mental errors that continue to haunt Rick Woolen. If you can't not make those mental errors against a guy you played against in training camp for, at this point, 3-4 years of your career,
right,
your entire career, I think, yeah, his
yep,
entire career to this
entire
point,
career,
he's been playing up against DK Metcalf in training camp. If you can't take that knowledge and then apply it in a game
right.
to stop that guy, then you're never going to have it. And I agree with you in the sense of this is a make or break game because of all of the points you said, and because he's got the built-in advantage that most corners never have.
Here's another interesting point: is DK is not going to beat you by shaking you or running some kind of goofy route, right? It's not lateral quickness. It's not a double move where, with suddenness. DK is going to out physical you and he's going to outrun you.
Hmm.
And because he doesn't have the ability to do the other stuff. DK is purely a physical matchup. So if ever Woolen is going to be able to match up with someone that's here because he can let his physical tools take over, you don't have to think much against DK because that's not what he's doing,
True.
right? He's not, and you can't scheme for. I guess the point is you can't scheme for DK in a way where the routes that he's running will confuse you or is going to have Reek Woolen make a mental mistake.
Hmm.
It's purely physical.
Yeah.
He goes beast mode on you every single play,
Hmm.
right? And he still runs a bunch of go routes and post routes, and he doesn't do a whole lot else. And a lot of his routes are rounded off because he's physically unable to make that cut. And so Woolen, this is why you have Reek Woolen, is to play against these big physical receivers, right? This is when he has to show up. To me, that's the matchup of the game. That and Abe Lucas against TJ Watt. Those are the two matchups to me that are going to determine a lot of what happens in this game.
Yeah, that's fair. One other last underrated point that I want to bring up is hopefully Mike McDonald's familiarity with the Steelers and the AFC North and how they operate
Sure.
will be helpful in terms of planning, strategy. Yes, Aaron Rodgers wasn't their quarterback before, but also you played Aaron Rodgers last year against
Right.
the Jets. So from a coaching perspective, I'm gonna be that's kind of what I'm watching for these coaches. Can Clint Kubiak bounce back and show us who he told us he was, like, show us the identity you told us you were going to have? Can
Hmm.
Mike McDonald be the defensive mastermind that he's got the reputation for being? And to this point, I think he's proven that, so it's well earned. But he's
Hmm.
got to go out and prove it in this week in particular. I think they're gonna need to to have that advantage. Now, it's not easy. It's not an easy task to say outcoach Mike Tomlin, but I also think Mike Tomlin's kind of been in a little bit of a rut of mediocrity himself. So, for all the respect that I have for Mike Tomlinson as a coach, I would say that Mike's got to outcoach him, um, and they've got to make sure they take advantages of matchups that they have. The
You
last
know what the most hilarious point or most hilarious reason is? Mike Tomlin has been mediocre. Now, mediocre, I'm saying 500. But the
Yeah,
reason why he hasn't been great over the last however many years is because he's had mediocre quarterback play, right? He's had exactly what we've been talking about is he's had a bunch of Sam Darnolds after
he's had worse.
Roethlisberger's
He's
peak.
I think he's had worse than Sam Darnold's
Well,
put up
yes,
right
but after Roethlisberger's peak, it's been Pickett and Mason Rudolph and who's the brother that played at Tennessee who Josh Dobbs and guys like that. He's been rolling with those dudes for years now
now.
without a good quarterback. And I think that's proof of what happens when a team has elite talent at a lot of positions, right? They still have really, really good offensive and defensive line. They've had really great players at every position darn near and haven't been an elite team because the quarterback play has been so bad. I think they're case in point of a team that just needs a better quarterback, which is why they were willing to bring in an Aaron Rodgers despite all of his, red flags. So
Yeah,
I
I beat them over the head if they couldn't have got on the Sam Darnold contract next year, but they can. I don't see that as the albatross around this team's future. It's not like they're committed to this guy. Uh, if things go as badly as you want, they can get out of it if they want to. I For a year is what he is. He's a bridge quarterback.
I right. I'm just saying I don't want to hear from folks that we're going somewhere this year.
I
And I didn't want to before week 1 either, right? I don't want to hear any of the Sam Darnold is going to, lead us anywhere because he's not. That's my point is selling us something that he wasn't going to be.
I don't think it was ever going to be based off him. It's going to be based on the run game. So we'll see if they can base it around the run game. If they can have the run game
People
that
were
they
telling
want
me
to
they
have.
win in 12, 13 games though.
We watched
11,
Jimmy
12
Garoppolo.
games.
We watched Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl. So I think that they have enough evidence on their part to say that
Okay. Who was his
you
coach?
can win with an elite run game.
Who was Garoppolo's coach? Who were the skill players around him? How good was that offensive line? How good was that defense?
But they built to that. They got
But it
all those
was
pieces
right, but
in.
it was even at a higher level than the Steelers, what we were just talking about. And Garoppolo didn't win a Super Bowl. He got there. He didn't win one.
He did. You're right. He did. We saw him in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
He did not win a Super Bowl.
Right.
But and yeah, he was the reason that they lost. But again, they're saying this recipe has worked, especially because Super Bowl isn't their goal. It's just not. It's not their goal. Their goal is to
Why?
get to the playoffs. Can you get to the playoffs with a strong run game and a good defense? Yes. History points to yes. Even if the quarterback play is mediocre, average,
Why do
even
it though if
below
you're not
average.
trying to why do it if you're not trying to get to the Super Bowl?
Again, it's easy to say when you're a
Oh,
fan. It's not easy to say when it's your job on the line if you don't even make the playoffs. That's what the onus is from the ownership. Ownership's biggest focus is to make some progress, to build on this team, to take the key
it's
pieces
to
and the
put
young
butts to
promising
put butts in
players
the seats to produce revenue, right?
and to
That's what
make
it is.
the playoffs. Correct. That's the ownership. That's their job, and so they're gonna make decisions from the lens of that. I can't tell
Didn't
anybody to sacrifice their job from
Do
my
we
entertainment
know? But do we
game.
know that she said that for sure?
We don't, but how they're operating, yeah, I think that's important. When they transitioned and they got rid of Pete, they said it was to get over the hump. They got rid of Pete because they said we can be better without him. That's John's whole premise of still keeping his job. He sold. These
Yeah, but
players are talented.
he just signed
He
a
just,
long extension though. John is fine.
I mean, he's fine now. But I mean, when they're making these decisions and they're building this roster,
Right.
when they're making these decisions and they're building this roster, that's what they're looking at.
I
Like
see. I don't know.
they sold this team big
John,
on it. We can get over the 10-7. We can get over the 9-8. We can get
I'd
over
be
that
happy
hump.
with 10-7 at this point. Here's the thing
I
though,
would too.
John would find a job anywhere. I don't know why he's worried about his job security or was worried about his job security. John Schneider's going to find a good paying job anywhere.
Because John loves Seattle. He loves Seattle. He loves the city. He wants to be there. He's said it over and over again. Yeah, that's his home. Not looking to relocate his family. And so again, for me, I come down to understand the process. Now, can it come out to be the best case scenario? We'll see. I
I,
can see a world where it works out in their favor. I can see a world where it won't. But, I
I
think week
understand the
two,
process.
week two,
I understand the process. I understand what they're trying to do. I'm saying I don't agree. I'm saying this
I
is
agree.
bad process, right? I
I
get what they're
agree.
trying to do.
I
It's
get the
just
process.
it's maddening because we're watching again. If you're going to give us an average to mediocre quarterback, at least make him exciting. This dude is boring as all heck.
He is.
Boring.
He is.
Boring. Like, give me somebody who's exciting or fun to watch, or we know has the potential to develop down the road into something more.
I just think it's crying over spilled milk. Like,
It
I
is, but
mean, I hear you. It
and you
just
know what?
seems like it's
I'm
crying
gonna
over
keep on
spilled milk.
crying too. I'm gonna keep on
It's
crying until they play somebody else.
I mean, nobody else is going to be able to run I mean, Drew Lock is who Drew Lock is. All right. I would not rather watch Drew Lock. You'd
I might.
obviously disagree. But I would not rather watch Drew Lock operate this offense. I think either way, I think Milrow is your most exciting player, and they're gonna put him in, hopefully at better times.
I'm
They're
not
gonna put
saying
him in the
choose.
game to
I'm not
give you your
necessarily
excitement.
saying choose between the three. I'm saying the process of signing him in the first place.
Assigning
Darnold.
Sam Darnold,
Uh-huh.
I I'm never going to knock that process. He was the best quarterback on the free agent market available. That's the reality.
But you're not even looking at for the best necessarily at that point. You're looking for someone that's going to be able to get you through so you can find the best down the road.
Looking for a bridge. Exactly.
But not a bridge doesn't mean he's going to win. A bridge just means functioning, right? Like I'm not trying to win this year.
I
We're saying that we're going round and round, but I'm not trying to win this year. I'm just not.
I, I
Not
think
in a
yeah I
draft
think
with
teams view bridge quarterbacks.
Lenora Sellers and all these other dudes that are potentially elite. I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to win this year. Are we
Yeah.
gonna make a prediction?
Yep. I predict a loss. I predict a loss. I think
What?
this. I do. I predict a loss. I had a win originally, but I think as big as the game is, I do worry about. It comes down for me the injuries. I felt a lot more confident going into this game with an elite defense. Right. I'm staking my ground on this defense is going to be able to carry this team. This defense is going to be able to make up for
Yep.
the lack of on the offense, right?
Yep.
I can't then, in good conscience, when the defense is limping in on its last leg and the offense did not show a lot to give me reason to think that they would be anything other than what people thought they were.
Right.
I can't then, in good conscience, be like they're still going to win this game. I would love for them to win this game and for the offense to show some life. If they're going to win, it's going to be because the offense shows some sign of life. They
Yep.
begin to be who they told us they were going to be. But until I see them do that in a regular season game, it gives me pause if the defense can't. Julian Love made a lot of those plays that bailed them out last week. And
He's
you don't know
very,
if we're getting
very,
Julian Love.
very, very underrated player for this
Right.
defense. Very
Exactly.
underrated and smart.
Spoon, no spoon. I
Spoon's the
mean,
biggest one. Spoon's the biggest one. I think Spoon is he's an all pro, right?
it's
He plays at an all pro level, and you can't just take that dude out and expect it to be the same. The other one is if Jaron Reed can't go,
yeah, that's
Jaron
also
Reed is
a piece.
also very underrated. And
Right.
the 5 plays we saw from Eamon Warrior, he looked nasty.
Right.
Eamon Warrior looked like a game changer, game
He did.
wrecker, and he's gone for at least what 4 weeks. It looks like
They
3 4 weeks.
they may put him on IR. So
So when you compare what we thought we were coming into the season to what we might be in week 2, yeah,
mhm.
I agree.
Yep.
Do you have a
I've got
score?
it 17-12.
Okay.
I think it's an ugly game. I agree with you. I think it's I think it's a defensive game, but I just don't think our defense is going to be good enough given our injuries. If the defense is healthy, I marked this as a win like I had originally, but the injuries seem to be getting worse. Like you said, Darren Reed added to the list. I mean, and that wasn't necessarily even a factor. Now you're hurt on the defensive line. You're
Right.
hurt all kind of places in your secondary, and then you're going to have to move chess pieces. To me, that's I think what hurts them the most. Now you've got to take people outside of what they're used to
Hmm.
doing, put them elsewhere, and so everybody's
Hmm.
that chemistry, which is a really big important part of this defense, is not going to be there. So unfortunately, I think they go down 0-2.
How many wins?
How many wins on the season?
Yeah.
Not ready to repredict that. Not ready to repredict. Too much. Too much. Right now, I stand by my take. But the defense has got to be healthy. If this defense is going to continue to have injuries, that changes my outlook. Again,
We can
my,
all,
my
Candace, we can all say
optimism.
that. How many wins? We can
I
all
don't
say
have
that.
that
How
right
many
now.
wins?
I'm not doing that right now. I'm not, man.
Boy,
I am not doing that right now.
you getting good just like everybody else that skirting the question.
What I predict 11. I think I ultimately ended up
Yeah.
11 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see if they can get that, but right now I'm not going to take off of that
Yeah.
because I need more information before I change my
Okay.
prediction in any sort of way.
Okay.
I'm not
So,
changing my prediction after week one. I just that's soft, man. I'm not changing my prediction after week
all
one.
right. So, half hour ago, Brady Henderson, the ESPN Seahawks reporter, said that Spoon is listed as doubtful.
Mm,
Eamon Worry is out
yeah.
with the high ankle sprain. Julian Love is expected to play,
Okay.
but he's dealing with the groin that sidelined him Thursday and limited him the other 2 days of practice. Um, looks like Nwosu will be back. So looks like Spoon's out.
Yeah. I think Spoon's out. That's
Um,
kind of where it was trending.
so as far as my predictions, I said 13-9 Pittsburgh. I think that I think the defense will play well. I don't believe in Rodgers, and I think the run defense is going to hold up. Right, I think the run defense will hold up against this Pittsburgh rushing attack. Um, but I don't. I just this to me this is just this offense is just boo boo, and they'll be lucky to get 3 field goals in this game to me because the Pittsburgh defense is stout enough that what Seattle would need to do to be able to score is to be able to create some big plays. And I have no clue where those big plays would come from.
Yeah.
I can't look at any of these guys and say unless they're successful running the ball and they can run some play action, right? At which point it could be anyone from Cody White to Derek Young to, Torrey Horton to any of those dudes who have some speed to be able to get deep. But I don't necessarily see that happening. So to me, 13-9, I see this as at this point, this is a 6 to 8 win team for me.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that.
I'm not doing predictions on the season after
No, I
week
get
one.
it. But I was in that range to begin with, right? I was 9 wins was the very very top end for me, and this Niners game was potentially a win, and so the last week's game. That's why I say
Yeah.
that. I don't have any confidence right now in the offense whatsoever, I have to say the thing that's most disappointing though is just that we won't see a full strength defense because that's what I was looking forward to this year.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. The defense was, I mean, they had to have an elite defense. If they're going to be injured, that changes the math on, I think, what they were predicting.
Yep.
And I mean, they put all their eggs in the defense basket. That's the reality. So
Hmm.
they would have needed that to hold up, and we'll see if it can. So anyway, Tino, let's go ahead and get out of here.
Yep.
Tell people where they can find you, and
Tino Junior 20 on Blue Sky. Also live tweeting the from the Seahawks 360 account for on Blue Sky during the game starting at 10 o'clock on Sunday.
All right, good stuff. Be sure to follow the show at Twitter, X, at Seahawks 365. Also follow the show, like Tino said, at Seahawks 360. Live tweets and updates and more stuff coming at you throughout the week. In the meantime, that's it. That's all we have the time for today. That's out. That's all we're out. And as always,
Go Hawks.
go Hawks.